Hey everyone, this is PrinceWatercress, and welcome to a brand new Let's Play. This time around, it is Boing for the Atari 2600. Brought to us by First Star Software in 1983. This was the only game that First Star Software, a developer that was around back in the 80s up until the early 90s, this was the only game that they ever made for the Atari 2600. So, by just looking at the attract mode for the game, you have this Q-Bert clone that you're playing. You control the little glowing blue bubble. You want to avoid the green monster, which is the bubble eater, and you want to avoid the little white stick, which is the pin. The pin pops the bubble eater eats the bubble. You only have 5 lives to work with, and you really don't want to lose a whole bunch of them at one time. Also, by looking at the attract mode, you have 6 levels of play. And I will go through them as we play this game. Of course, you can also get a good look at them just by watching a demo. And you can see how they work, basically. Not much else to say at the beginning of this without having to play it, so let's go ahead and play it. And we start at level 1. Pretty simple here. We use the joystick to move. We can move in 4 directions. Thankfully, you don't have to hold the joystick in really weird directions. And you don't have to use the fire button for anything either. You just move with the joystick. That's it. Your aim of the game is to turn on, or stand on, or run across, however you want to see it, all 36 spaces on the playfield. You gotta make sure that the top of them are flashing and turned on, so to speak. And when you do that, you go on to the next wave of a level. There are 5 waves per level, and as you go from wave to wave, the bubble eater becomes faster and more aggressive and harder to get to run into the pin. Believe it or not, you can use the pin against the bubble eater if you know what you're doing. You can pop the bubble eater, so to speak. And at this point, we are at wave 5 of the first level. And by completing the last wave of the first level, we go on to level 2. And the bubble monster has gone back to being rather slow. Now in level 2, you could, unlike level 1 where you could go anywhere you want, you have to go row by row from the bottom to the top. The little white lines indicate which direction you not only need to go, but also which row of tiles you need to step on before you can go on to the next one. And just like level 1, as you go from wave after wave, as you go from wave to wave, the bubble monster becomes a little harder to deal with. He becomes faster, he becomes more aggressive. Like, he moves rather slowly in wave 1, but by the time you reach wave 5, he's gonna be hopping mad, he's gonna be pretty fast, and you definitely don't want to even come close to running into him. I might as well go ahead and mention some game tips now, because I've basically explained the whole gist of this. Obviously, you want to avoid the pin and the bubble eater. And you also want to trick the bubble eater into being in the pin's path. You want to be very careful as you move around in this game, especially in the later waves of the later levels, because it is easy to lose a life run to something that just killed you, and then die again. This is something that I like to call a double death. It's really easy to do a double death if you're not paying attention. Yeah, usually I kind of tend to hold the joystick in the direction that I want, but that can easily lend you to a double death. Like, I could run into the bubble monster, and then as soon as I respawn, the game remembers that I was going in, like, one specific direction, and I just run straight into the bubble monster again, thereby causing a double death. And so, as you go further and further into the game, you want to make more of a habit of tapping the joystick where you need to and not holding it down in one direction all the time. If you can do that, you can keep yourself from accidentally dying twice in a row in just a matter of seconds. And you can also keep yourself from doing that, because it's kind of hard to double back when you're traveling in one direction and holding the... That was weird. It's kind of hard to go in a different direction after you hold one direction for so long. And because of that, I find myself kind of tapping the joystick whenever I need to. Of course, I didn't do it there, so therefore I kind of had a premature end there at level 2. Near the end. I was about ready to hit level 3. Let's go ahead and go straight to level 2, because I managed to make my way over there. Apologies for the awkward silence. I just didn't know that if I would be switching between 3 game levels whenever I press the game select thing, when I use the game select function. Believe it or not, you can only choose between the first 3 levels of play, and there are 6 in all. We've already seen level 1, we're now at level 2, and we've already explained level 2. If I can get to level 3, I can explain level 3. And I am doing a pretty good job. Let's just hope I don't run into the pin while I am up top, because that would be bad. Of course, that probably won't be much of an issue if I run into the bubble monster first. And I would really like you to go away. Oh, you popped the bubble monster. Good. So it is possible to have some things befall you as you're doing things. And of course have some weird things happen. For instance, right there. You don't want to hang out near the top for a long period of time, because it is possible to have a... Really? It is possible to have a pin hit you as soon as it spawns, and there's like a 1 in 6 chance of that happening. That's like 16.6 repeating %. That's like almost 20%, which is 1 in 5. Also, it is possible for you and either the pin or the bubble monster, or sometimes even the pin and the bubble monster, to just go through each other just because they were just switching spaces all of a sudden. Like, if they collide into each other while going from one tile to another, it won't count as them colliding. Like right there, the pin, or the bubble monster rather, has to be flat on a tile in order to be popped by the pin. And so can you. Come on. There we go. We are now at level 3. So level 3, you kind of have to watch what you're doing. That was great. Let's try to do this. So, in level 3, you have to turn on 3 whole rows worth of tiles. The second, the fourth, and the sixth at first. And then you have to turn on the first, the third, and the fifth. If you can see the little white lines, those are the areas where you have to go. Those are the tiles you have to step on first. Once we do the first 3 rows, the even number rows, then we have to do the odd number rows. And that's what I was talking about earlier. We, meaning me, the bubble, and the bubble monster, crossed each other while moving between tiles, but because we were moving straight between tiles, it never really counted as a collision. Now, if I was flat on a tile, and the monster collided with me, or if the bubble monster was flat on the tile and collided with me, then I would have gotten hurt. Like right there. Kind of interesting how the 5 waves have their own individual colors. And because that was the last tile that the bubble monster was on, the game turns the tile on before saying, hey, you're dead. But if the tile you land on is the last one you need, and you run into the pin or the bubble monster while you're running into it, it doesn't count as a death. Now, level 4. Level 4 is just like level 1, except if I step on a tile that I've turned on, I can turn it back off. That makes things a little harder at times. Like right there, the computer-controlled bubble, which is now computer-controlled now that I've lost my last life, it was landing on tiles I had already been before, and they went from an on position to an off position. Level 5 is like level 2. You clear the bottom row first, and you clear the one after that, then the one after that, then the one after that, just like in level 2, but you can turn the tiles on and off in level 5. Level 6 is much like level 3. You have 3 whole rows to work with first before you turn on the other 3 rows. And much like levels 4 and 5, the tiles can also be turned on there as well. So 4, 5, and 6 are just like 1, 2, and 3. The only difference is you can land on a tile, then get back on it and turn it off. Meaning you can unland on it, so to speak. Like, all those purple tiles are lit up. If I were to go back on it to any one of them in levels 4, 5, or 6, they would stop flashing purple. And obviously you want all 36 tiles to be flashing that color at the top, so that way you can get to the next wave. Some other things that I should mention, because somehow I've failed to mention them myself. The pin and the bubble monster are the only enemies you really have to deal with in the game. You don't have to worry about other enemies showing up later on. What you see is what you get throughout your entire session. And unlike in Q-Bert, which this game is a clone of, more or less, you can't fall off the edge. Like, I could go all the way up and I wouldn't fall off the top row. I could go all the way down and I couldn't fall off the bottom row. I can go all the way to either side and I wouldn't fall off the side. So that's something that should be taken into consideration when playing this game, at least. Also, you get a extra life every 10,000 points. And I was so on my way to another one when I lost my last life. That's something. And once you beat level 6, I believe you go back to level 1? I could be wrong. If I find out otherwise, I'll mention something at the bottom of this video. But after level 6, that's pretty much all there is. And I believe you just go back to level 1. So let's see if I can go to... There we go. Alright, let's try level 3 again. I'm not going to try to get to level 6. Although I may do it inadvertently. And if I somehow were to do it, great. But don't expect me to inadvertently make it to the final wave of level 6 and then clear it. And yeah, I should have known that the pin was not going to hit the bubble monster at that rate. Just because of the rate of speed that the bubble monster is going to travel at now. At least it's easier to fill in all of the rows in the first 3 levels. And I really want to get some distance between me and the bubble monster as I'm doing all of this. Ooh, I thought I ran into that. I didn't. And if I knew that the bubble monster was going to get hit, I wouldn't have doubled back like I did. Oh well. Now for the final wave of... Final wave of level 3 there, and I was really trying not to run into the bubble monster. So now that the bubble monster seems to be angry at me for existing, he's gonna really get in my way as I go through here. And I'm soon gonna be able to make it to level 4. And I keep doubling back when I shouldn't. And he leapt on me. And I held right. I shouldn't have. And that just completely ruined everything that I was trying to do. Wonderful. So, yeah. Boing for Atari 2600. Pretty interesting Q-Bert clone for the Atari 2600. I didn't think I would have so much fun with this one, but I did. And I wish that it came out maybe a little earlier. Maybe then more people would remember this game. This game did come out in 1983 after all. But other than that, it's an alright game. It's definitely worth getting for the Atari 2600. The graphics, what you see here is what you get. It's a very simple affair. But you can tell what everything is supposed to be. You can easily identify the bubble monster. You can easily identify the pin, the tiles, the bubble you play as, so on and so forth. And of course you have that nice constant changing of colors on the Boing icon below your score. So that's pretty cool. The sound and music, there's not a lot of music, there's not a lot of sound. It's very, very arcadey. You get a different piece of music for each individual level that you enter. So at least the game has you covered on that front. The gameplay. I really did not have much problem with the gameplay. Though it is interesting that you can accidentally kill yourself twice in very rapid succession if you keep holding the joystick in a certain direction. And I kind of found myself just tapping the joystick in the direction that I wanted to go rather than holding it sometimes. Though I still have a bad habit of holding the joystick, and that kind of sometimes gets me into a lot of trouble while playing this game. And replay value. This is one you'll probably spend a good amount of time with if you like Q-Bert style games. Not gonna lie, this one can be rather fun for a Q-Bert clone. I mean, I definitely vie for level 4, at least level 4 every time I play, but I never really seem to get that far. I rarely seem to get around the 20,000 point range, which is kind of disappointing, at least to me, because I really want to see if I could handle level 6. And unfortunately, you can only pick the first 3 levels of gameplay. You can only pick between those when you start a new game, and then you're forced to play your way to 4, 5, and 6 from there. And that's not easy. Even though you just have a 36 tile playfield, a 6x6 tile playfield, a bubble monster, and a pin is the only things you have to worry about. All in all, this is a fun game. I think the one thing that this game had going against it was when it was released. This game was released in 1983, back when the whole North American video game crash was happening, and therefore not many people probably played this one back in the day. And you're probably going to be able to find it dirt cheap at a game store as a result. Do I recommend getting this game? I didn't hate it, so it's definitely worth giving a shot. This one is definitely worth playing if you have an Atari 2600. It's not like stupendous or absolutely amazing, but at least you have a Q-Bert clone for the system, and sometimes that can be alright. This has been Let's Play Boing for the Atari 2600. Hopefully you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Apologies if I went kinda everywhere explaining how this game is played and how it works and whatnot. And hopefully I'll be back with another game. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it'll be bad. Maybe it'll be somewhere in between. Who knows? Until then, this is PrinceWatercress. Take care. Stay safe. Thanks for watching, and see you guys later.